Hey everybody, this is Doc Mack from the Galloping Ghost Arcade out in Brookfield, Illinois, and today we are doing another game player profile. Today on with Bryan Schillo. Thanks for being here, and
Thanks for having me.
You've had a great run so far here at the arcade.
It's been good. It's been good.
You currently have four world records.
It's something like that. It jumps around a little.
Sure.
Yeah.
You do have quite a few back and forth.
Yeah.
Going on, which is excellent, and that's we love seeing that, and thank you for everything that you've done so far here at the arcade.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, the back and forths, those were really, really fun, especially Forgotten Worlds with James.
Yeah.
I hope he had as much fun as I did doing that. He's a great player, great competitor.
For sure.
Just his ability to pick up on games that he's never played before, and just like that, he's putting up hundreds of thousands of points. That's super impressive to me.
Absolutely.
He's a great player. So that was tons of fun. Tons of fun.
Well, that definitely one of the most standout back and forths ever here at the arcade. So.
And it was funny because every time I thought the score couldn't go any higher, we found a way to do it.
There's always a little more room.
Yeah. And I hope he tries again. I really hope he does. I'm a little rusty. I'm sure he is too.
Sure. That's all putting the focus back on it. And I know he needed a break for a bit, but
that's true. Yeah.
Hard to keep anybody down here.
Mm-hmm.
So, but let's go back where it started with you. Like, what was your first experience in an arcade?
In an arcade? That's a great question. I was a child of the 80s, so I think my first experience with any kind of cabinets was at a Showbiz Pizza.
Okay.
I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, and it's like 50th and Kedzie. There was a Showbiz over there, and the three games that I remember the most, Moon Patrol was my favorite, being whatever, I was like 7-8 years old at the time. Spy Hunter, Dragon's Lair, which
really
drove me crazy because I couldn't make heads or tails out to play the game. But I think those are the first three that I really, really distinctly remember. And Moon Patrol was the one that I would always just pump quarters into.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate to live in an area where there were lots of arcades in some shape or form, like within like really close proximity. There was a restaurant a few blocks from my house that had a bunch of great games. Miami Bowl. There was a place called Fun Zone on Archer and Pulaski, if you remember that.
What did you play there?
Kung Fu Master, Vigilante, Gladiator. I think they had sidearms too. They actually had one of those places, I can't remember which one, but they had an original dedicated Gradius cabinet. Not Nemesis. It was Gradius with the blue side panel.
Yeah.
So what you've told me, that's a pretty rare game to come across. The original one, yeah. So that's kind of neat that they had that. There was another place that was in this like weird little industrial district that was near my house. So it was like a little square block, like square mile, just like warehouses and stuff like that. And someone had the brilliant idea of putting like batting cages, go-karts, like an arcade, mini golf in there, and so you had to like ride your bike past all these warehouses, and there's just one building with an arcade in there.
Yeah.
And they had tons of stuff too. Narc, Devastators, Double Dragon. So
nice.
Very much like that mid 80s into early 90s. That was my core years in gaming.
Yep. That's awesome. Did you were you into consoles much as well, or?
I think, yeah. I was Atari age kid, so my parents bought me the 2600. Of course, regular Nintendo, when that came out, you were just all like, oh my god, this is just like the arcade, And then Genesis comes out and the Super Nintendo comes out, and I remember like me and a couple of my buddies playing like Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana. We're like, graphics are never going to get better than this. And look where we are today.
Sure.
Like virtual reality. I was always big on consoles too. I have to say my favorite was probably Super Nintendo era. That was hands down, yeah.
What, do you have a favorite game you had on SNES?
Super Nintendo, I have to say probably Secret of Mana. Secret of Mana only. The funny thing is, the first time I ever played that game, I did not like it. But there's three three of us, two of my really old friends who I'm still like best friends with to this day. Like we would always Fridays and Saturdays we'd just go and we'd like all hang out together and play games. That was our thing.
Yeah.
So my buddy Paul, he got Secret of Mana, and he's like, we're gonna play this, and I'm like, because I liked the turn-based stuff at the time. That was what was popular. And Secret of Mana, that was just free flowing, like action. You just run around and whack things.
Sure.
That was what I didn't like about it. But the memories that I have from being with my friends and playing that game, and like even if I just hear that music, I'm like, oh yeah, that was good times. That was good times from back then.
Overall, like, what's your like? Do you prefer arcade gaming to console, or what? Is it just kind of all different types of each, or?
It kind of changed a little bit over time. I'd say if you would have asked me that question 5 years ago, I'd say definitely consoles.
Yeah.
But now I love coming here and being in this atmosphere, like it just takes me back to when I was a kid. It really does. And that's an awesome feeling. So I love coming here. I love interacting with people. So hands down, consoles. Or not consoles, but the cabinets for sure.
Cool. Oh, do you remember your first time here at GGA?
I think it was. That's a good question.
And do you remember what brought you here?
I remember what brought me here. Okay, so at the time I was really big into playing Street Fighter 4.
Okay.
And I had only been playing on my Xbox at home on the 360. And I found, I think, Shoryuken.com, like they had listings in like different cities as to where they would have like a meetup or something like that. All the gamers could come together and play.
Right.
And this place was listed because this room over here where you have all the shmups that used to be like the console area.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm like, hey, I know where that is. That's right by me. And I came in one day and I had to pay like the door fee, and then there was an extra fee to get in that room there. And before I went in there, I just kind of perused the area, and I'm like, oh, they got Final Fight. That's cool. That was the first one that grabbed my attention because that was one of my favorites. And I came in and then spent the rest of the evening like playing Street Fighter with the other people that were here.
Yeah.
And then there was a gap in time for whatever reason, and I started playing a game that you play on your cell phone called Ingress, which I still play, and this is a location in that game because it's all based on real-time locations. It's what they use basically to make Pokemon Go.
Right.
And so this, you could capture like the location for your team, and so you always have like different things. Oh, okay, well the arcade is a location in the game, so I'm always driving by it, and the way I come home from work, I'm always coming down Ogden. So I'm just like, why don't I go in here more? I like gaming, and I think it was probably like the second time after I revisited the arcade, I'm just like, I'm a member. This is fun. This is awesome.
Yeah. Do you when you started coming in more and more, like how long was it before you wanted to get into scoring?
I think it was probably that first or second time.
Yeah.
Because I remember walking around and looking up at some of the scorecards. Again, going back to Final Fight, that was the first record that I took, and I'm just like, I could beat that score. I know I could beat that score. So that was the first one, and after I did that, I was actually kind of satisfied with that. But once you get the itch, you got to scratch it. So then I'm like, oh, what else can I play? Like, there were a few titles that I kind of bounced around in my head as maybe I'll try this one next or this one, and then it landed on Forgotten World. So and that was number 2, I think. When
you're gearing up to go for a score, like, do you have any preparation? Do you like play on MAME or watch YouTube videos, or do you grind out on playing the game over and over? Like, what's your once you've set your sights on something?
I wish I had time to play stuff on MAME, but I don't. So a lot of it's grinding out here at the arcade. Mm-hmm. A lot of the games that I've tried to tackle in some way, shape, or form, I've had experience being that on MAME in the past, like when there were no arcades and MAME was my only access to those old school games. I did a little bit of that, and then just going back to my youth again, games that I played a lot, either at an arcade or on a console. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that I've really been putting the focus on. Mm-hmm. Occasionally, like if I get stuck on something, I'll ask somebody here who has experience on the game, like, hey, how do you do this? Or worst case scenario, I'll look up on YouTube, like, how does somebody get past this? Be like, oh, it's so like obvious,
Yeah.
So, but I like to figure it out on my own, for sure.
Yeah. Do you find yourself playing games, like even with the selection of the games? Is it more you're playing just for fun, or is it more with a target in mind of I can take that score?
I'm really picky about what I play for whatever reason. Some of the stuff I do play for fun because I like to try, like a lot of the rare stuff that you have, or things that I only saw in magazines when I was a kid, like for example Gradius 2, like oh, I wish I could find that somewhere, and it was never anywhere, and then it was here. I'm like, I gotta play that. I'll try a lot of stuff and I will play it for fun, but just for whatever reason, something about a game will just speak to me, and it's just like I'm gonna give it that effort and try and get the score.
Yeah. What so far has been your toughest score that you've gone after, and your toughest accomplishment that you've like really had to put all your effort into?
Forgotten Worlds.
Forgotten Worlds?
Yeah. Especially with the back and forth with James.
Absolutely.
That was trying to come up with creative ways just to basically outscore each other. And the way he plays the game is completely different. Oh, it's a relative term. Like, he uses a different strategy to gain his points than I do.
Right.
But at least for me, it got to the point where I was breaking down at the end of every level, I need to have this amount of points, I need to have this amount of Zenny. And if I eclipse those, I'm in good shape. And if I'm not at a certain point total at the end of a certain stage or a certain Zenny total, no, that's it. Just
it's not.
Yeah.
How has it been, and how do you deal with, like, again, there's just so many great competitors here and great players, like, you're going to lose scores here.
Of course.
Does that motivate you to keep playing? Has there been anything that it's been like, how do you feel when it's like you've lost that score? What does it do to you?
Okay. Well, that being said, I wish someone would challenge me on a final fight, because I've had that since I think like over a year. Please, someone come and play final fight. I want competition. Like, I know Pete and I have gone back and forth a little bit on some of the greatest games, and that's great because he's an awesome player too. The Forgotten Worlds one, there were a few times when I was just so sure that I had it, and then James would like come back like a day later. You just take it the next day. I'm like, really? Like, I couldn't even have it for 24 hours? Really, that? But that's just, it just goes to show how much he's passionate about gaming too.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you just need to take a couple steps back and that time off, because you can reapproach something differently when you had a few like days or however long you need to just process.
Sure.
And sometimes I've had instances where I haven't played a game in like a month, and I come back to it, and I do better than I did when I was playing it like on a weekly basis.
Sure.
So yeah, you just got to know yourself and what works best for you.
Have you had any instance where either there's a score that's already set, or you've had a score taken away that just takes it to a different level, and you're kind of, I don't want to get into that. That's has there been anything that has deterred you? Any game that just the score is just so
ridiculous?
Yeah.
In a sense, I could say like Gladiator. Again, that was one of the first games that I had played at an arcade that I really was good at. And I had people who also hung out at that place, like give me tips and tricks and stuff like that. And I came here and I saw that the world record was like 41 million. I mean, that's a marathon run. I don't even know. I haven't done the math to see how many hours that was.
Right.
And I played it for a half hour. I put up almost 750,000 points. Just under 700,000, I think. And it's just like, there's no way I'm gonna hit 41 million.
Right.
Like, I don't got the time or the effort to put into trying to get that score.
Yeah.
But in that case, something like that, I'm content with the house high.
Sure.
Other than that, no, I'm sure there are other ones. I know Pro Gear 2. Pro Gear is tons of fun. I kind of got away from that one a little bit, but I see the high score on that one, and I'm just like, I have no idea how someone got that many points at all.
Yeah. So there's so many players here, and the people that travel in, and there's always, every game here, there's somebody that is just able to play it masterfully.
Yeah.
Is there, if you could have any game that you just had, like you had total knowledge of,
okay, Oh, that's a good question. Trying to look around. It might surprise you, but Black Tiger.
Really?
Yeah, Black Tiger. That was another game that I played in my youth, and just so much fun, so much fun. And
Where did you play that at?
that was at one of the. Was at two different locations. It was at a video store that used to be on Archer Avenue. I think it was called Classic Sounds and Video, if you remember that. Or there's a restaurant that had a little rotating list of games. So I played it in two different locations.
Yeah.
It was always really challenging for me, just as far as difficulty. I think if I put in the time, I could probably do really well at that. But I see Triforce's score, and I don't know how he got that. There's got to be some way to massage that score a little bit.
Sure,
yeah.
sure.
But yeah, that one, I think that would be one I'd love to get the record someday, but we'll see.
What if you had to define your play style and your strengths? What would you say is describe yourself as a player?
Describe myself neurotic.
Neurotic?
No, I'm kidding. I think I can be very stubborn, and I will really push myself. Sometimes a little bit too much, I think. It's just a little bit of OCD that kicks in.
That always helps.
yeah. We just have to manage that. I play to have fun first and foremost, and if I ever find myself get too aggravated with something, I know it's time to walk away.
Yeah.
I do better at certain types of games than other, and I can't really say I know how to pinpoint that specifically. It's just it vibes with me, like Final Fight. I know how to play it. There's other games that are similar to that, like people I think Pete said once, why don't you try and go for the Punisher score? And I try Punisher, and it plays different. It's a different fluidity of the game and the way the characters move and the way they attack, and it's just this doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I can't pinpoint what specifically that is, but yeah, I play to have fun. I'd like to think I still have a pretty good memory because I did it when I was a kid. And I like that mental exercise of remembering just positions and where enemies are going to show up, and just that repetition. That's great.
Sure,
for your brain.
Sure. What are some of your future goals? Are you targeting any particular games or tournaments or?
Well, okay, so to pre-answer that question, time is sort of my biggest obstacle right now. I would love to get involved in some of the tournaments, like the Shmup tournament. I totally want to do this. Didn't have the time to do it. Still focusing on the Gradius games, Nemesis, Black Tiger. I would love to get into sometime. Rygar, Russian Attack. Get back on that one. What else? What else I'd really like to get pretty good at? The Ghosts and Goblins and Ghouls and Ghosts games. Very difficult.
Very
games.
difficult,
yeah,
for sure.
I picked up some pointers on Ghosts and Goblins along the way, and there was a period of time when I could consistently do 5th stage, and then I stepped away from it, so I got to get back into it. Pro Gear, Life Force, those are the ones that are jumping at the top of my head. Yeah.
Awesome. Is there a game here that you've never heard of or seen before it was here?
There's a lot.
Is there one that's just I really you really got into it, or a game that you'd never heard of and you just really appreciate it, that really stands out as a new favorite?
I want to say this one right over here.
Darius Burst.
Yeah, Darius is awesome.
Great game. I
really like the horizontal shmups.
Yeah.
Not so good at the vertical ones, but this one was a lot of fun. I definitely want to put in more time on this one.
Yeah.
This one's been a blast to play.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent game. Have there been, of the events that have all happened here, has there been one that's really stood out for you, whether it's a specific Monday Mystery Game or Developers Day or Mortal Kombat?
Mortal Kombat. Yeah, was the turnout for that was incredible.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because I had a chance to talk to Rich DeVizio, who played Kano, and there's a funny story I'll share with you real quick. So in the neighborhood where I grew up, there was a bowling alley, Miami Bowl, and they had Mortal Kombat there. And I remember just playing the game one day, and I was playing as Kano, and some just random guy at the arcade says, "Hey, you know Kano's from the neighborhood." Like, no, he's not. No, Kano's from the neighborhood. I swear to God. Okay, whatever. And for some reason, I always remembered that.
Yeah.
And then I had the opportunity to actually ask him here. Like, oh, I gotta ask Kano. He's from Brighton Park. And so I go up to him, like, this is the man I wanted to meet right here. And I asked him the question, and he was here with a lady friend. He just kind of turns around to her. He's like, "Are you hearing this?" It's like, tell her what you just told me.
Yeah.
And they were both from the neighborhood, so it turned out that it was true. Like, he grew up, I think, less than a half a mile from where I did.
Wow.
And he's like, "Who told you that?" I'm like, "Just some random guy at the arcade. He knew that you were from the neighborhood."
That information is out there.
Yeah.
People know.
Yeah. So that was really cool, and it was cool to actually meet the people who were part of a game that was such a big part of my childhood, you know, and me growing up.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show the staying power of the Mortal Kombat brand. I mean, you had people flying out from all over the world for that.
Absolutely.
That was awesome. Yeah, that was my favorite for sure. And
Very
the tournaments are always good because you get the healthy trash talking too from
Oh,
other
yeah.
players.
Speaking of other players, is there a player here that you kind of either highly, like, who do you highly respect here? Like, there's so many, but if you had to just be like, man, that guy's good.
That's a good question. Man, I don't know if I could pick a favorite because everybody's
not
got
so
their
much
strength.
a favorite. Well, and like, again, you've had back and forths
Sure.
with James and
Yeah.
Pete on some stuff, and there's
I'll tell you, that Sean Quigley guy, I don't know why you let him in here talk. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I love Sean. Sean's a great guy. Great sense of humor. If you see this, Sean, you know I'm kidding.
how about, is there a player you preferred not to be in a head-to-head with?
James? It's like a love-hate relationship. Because,
Sure.
You know his tenacity.
You want to hold on to those scores, but he
yeah.
loves to hold on to them too.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's-
he's a great player. No, James is great to watch. When I watched him play Forgotten Worlds and even like I think Blaster. Yeah. Just his ability to just do awesome in that.
yeah,
That was really impressive to me. Pete Gores is great. Jamie Tibbetts, Fred. Everybody brings character and flavor, and
Absolutely.
that's the best part about this place.
awesome. If there was anything you wanted people to know about you and your history of gaming, what would you tell them? What would you want to be known for, and what do you want them to know about your gaming experience?
That's a good question too. I can't say that there's anything in particular I'd like to be known for, but if you see me around here and you need some tips or tricks, or you just want to, talk, hang out, come talk to me. I'm very approachable. I'm a decent guy. I'm not a jerk. Don't let Sean Quigley steer you the wrong way. He'll say the same thing about me that I just said about him.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Sure.
Again, Bryan Schillo, one of our many amazing players here at the Galloping Ghost Arcade. Thank you for everything, and we look to your continued success and world records. Again, you've got many here and have done many amazing things. So
Appreciate
thank you so much for everything, and thanks everybody for watching. This is Mack from the Galloping Ghost Arcade, again with Bryan Schillo, and we hope to see you around the arcade soon.